Some of the world's most dangerous borders were drawn by people who never set foot on the land. Maps are meant to explain the world. They give us borders, names, certainty. We trust them. We fold them into our pockets, hang them on our walls, and believe the story they tell is the only story there is. But there are moments in history when maps did not record reality, they created it. They were not a reflection, but a prescription, a set of instructions for a future that had not yet been asked for. In the early 20th century, as old empires crumbled like dried clay, new lines began to appear on paper. Not the meandering, river-fed lines of ancient hills or the worn paths of nomadic trade. These were straight lines, clean lines, geometrical assertions of control. Lines drawn in London, in Paris, in Berlin, by men who leaned over vast oak tables, thousands of miles from the dust, the scent of time, the sound of the call to prayer rising from the land they were dividing. They spoke of stability, of balance of power, of administrative order. They measured with rulers, not with the footsteps of generations. They bargained with territories as if they were commodities, traded for debts or promises. And with the stroke of a pen, dipped not in ink but in a kind of hopeful arrogance, they performed surgeries on the body of the earth. They split regions that had never been whole and sutured together people who had never been the same, binding them with the thin thread of a new nationality. The news traveled slowly, by telegraph, by colonial officer on horseback, by rumor in the marketplace. One morning, villages woke up on the wrong side of a border that had not existed when the sun set. A river that gave life became a boundary to be policed. A road that connected cousins became a frontier to be crossed with papers. A house where the kitchen was in one nation and the olive grove in another became foreign to itself. No one moved. The earth did not shift, but everything changed. The geography of the heart was suddenly at odds with the geography of the state. Languages that once flowed freely across hills, adopting and borrowing, were suddenly questioned, codified, made official or unofficial. Where are you from? A question once answered with the name of a valley, a mountain, a clan, became, where do you belong? And belonging was now a matter of stamps, of passports, of a line on a census. A document now mattered more than a lifetime of memory. A birth certificate carried more weight than the memory of a grandfather's stories told in the very soil now designated as another country. Markets adjusted. The flow of sheep, of spices, of brides was interrupted, then rerouted through checkpoints. Schools adjusted, teaching new histories from new textbooks where the old heroes became insurgents and the old defeats became victories. Families learned to whisper. Letters were censored. Visits became negotiations. A simple family wedding turned into a logistical ordeal of visas and security clearances. New flags were raised, often to the sound of unfamiliar anthems composed in distant capitals. Children in classrooms practiced the strange syllables, their tongues stumbling over the new words of allegiance. Old names of places, of people, were pronounced incorrectly by new officials, then less often by a generation trying to fit in, then not at all, buried under the official map-sanctioned name. The song of a place began to fade. The map-makers looked at their creation, the neat patterns of color, the parallel lines of longitude and latitude respecting their new divisions. The map said the nation was complete, unified, a cohesive entity. But the ground remembered otherwise. The earth remembered the old cartography of footsteps. The wells remembered all who drank from them. The stones of old houses remembered the hands that laid them, indifferent to which flag flew from the administrative building. Because borders do not erase memory, they only pressure it.
They force it underground into family recipes, into lullabies in a fading tongue, into the stubborn shape of a bread loaf, into the pattern of an embroidered dress that held a map of flowers no longer found on one side of the line. Memory becomes a quiet act of preservation, a silent dissent against the simplicity of the line. Decades later, the lines still hold. On our digital maps, they glow with absolute precision. They appear permanent, natural, inevitable, as if rivers and mountains had decided to align themselves with human politics. But they are not. They are decisions, frozen in ink and now in pixels. They are the ongoing echo of a meeting held a century ago. They are a ghost in the machinery of our modern world, causing friction, generating heat, demanding endless enforcement, soldiers, fences, databases, laws.
And beneath these lines, like a subterranean river, lie the stories that never fit the shape they were given. The story of the farmer who tends a field that holds the bones of his ancestors, but whose tax bill arrives from a different capital. The story of the poet whose language is now a minority dialect in 2 countries, but a majority in none. The story of the love that could not cross a line and the hatred that was forged because of it. This is not merely the story of a war, though wars have bloomed from these cracks. It is the story of the line itself, the story of the day it was drawn and of every day after. It is the story of the silence it imposed, the identities it compressed, the connections it severed, and the unintended kinships it created among those who found themselves on the same wrong side of history's ruler. It is the story of everything the line quietly broke, and the story of everything that, despite it, refuses to be broken. The memory in the ground, the persistence of a name, the whisper that carries further and lasts longer than any decree.